Hey Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. Let's get right into it. We have a lot to discuss. We are talking about the standout players from the combine. It includes offense and defense, and then we're also going to talk about my favorites. I know I see some comments in here that are like, slow it down, lady, but listen, I'm from North Jersey. I can't stop it. And also, I only have so much time to get the information out to you guys, so I want to try and get it to you as quick as possible. You can always slow down the video if you're like, you're talking too fast, but again, I want to get this information out to you guys. So let's start with the offensive stars of the combine. We're briefly going to touch on Jeremiah Love, who I think at this rate might not even be available for the Giants at 5. Even if he is, the Giants are not drafting a running back at 5. I tell myself as I go to sleep every night. I really think it's unlikely that they do, but still, if you love football, if you love athleticism, like just getting to see these guys do what they do on the big stage is exciting and fun, and Jeremiah Love is one of those guys. He's an unbelievable person. He's a fantastic football player. He's smart as hell. He's obviously graduated from Notre Dame, so smart kid, and also freakishly athletic and a great running back. He's a great pass catcher, a great run blocker, great receiver, great running back. Like, he has everything that you want in a running back, which is why obviously this conversation around him is a lot. He ran a 4.36, which I thought this was a crazy stat from The Athletic. His 4.36 was the same time as Jeremiah Gibbs, and Love has 13 pounds on him. He weighs 13 more pounds and he ran the same time, which is crazy, especially playing the same position and stuff like that. But what I also think is really interesting about that is that this has been a big conversation for the Giants for specific players over the last couple years, Jalin Hyatt and Cordell Flott. They were both so lean that the Giants actually worked with them to put on weight in the offseason. But a big topic of conversation was, what's the right amount of weight that doesn't impact their speed negatively? So Cordell Flott put on, I believe it was like 10 to 12 pounds, I think in between year 2 to year 3. And then we really saw year 4 was the breakout for him. Jalin Hyatt put on, I believe it was around 20 pounds this offseason. Now, he didn't really get to play, and when he did, it didn't really go well, but I don't really think it affected his speed. So this is an interesting conversation. Anyway, let's move on to wide receiver Jeremy Bernard from Alabama, who had a fantastic season this year. I unfortunately am familiar with him because, like I said, he went to Alabama. I went to South Carolina. He absolutely cooked the South Carolina defense this year and just made them look like they've never played football before. So very impressive, great football player. He is not, a first-round pick. He's not Jordan Tyson. He's not Carnell Tate. He's not going to be in play for the Giants at 5. But I think he probably, based on how he performed at the combine and his interviews and stuff like that, probably helped move the notch a little bit and could potentially be, my guess is like maybe a 3rd rounder. I still think 37 for the Giants might be too high for him. We'll have to see how things go over the next, month or so. But a couple things to know about him. So he had the fastest 6'7", 1.3 cone exercise during the combine. So he was the best out of all of the wide receivers. On top of that, from this interview that he had with Connor, who was on Sims Complete, which is where I got this little nugget from, had some good information about him. So he said he's a good blocker. He can play the slot position, which is great. He's got versatility. He's tough. He's a great teammate. And this I thought was the most interesting thing about him, because Connor was saying that after this interview, he said, he's got a different mentality than the wide receivers. He's not your diva wide receiver. He's not going to complain about not getting the ball. And the reason for that is because the first position that he ever played when he started playing football was guard. He started as an offensive lineman before he ultimately ended up as a wide receiver. But I thought that was so interesting. And I think that the offensive line mentality is obviously extremely different than the wide receiver mentality. And I think that will only benefit him moving forward. So I thought that was a great nugget that I wanted to share. Next up, tight end Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. I'm sure you've heard a lot about him. If you have not heard, he is a big name coming out of the combine because he set a record for tight ends specifically. He ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, and he surpassed Vernon Davis, who was a tight end who held that for a very, very long time. And what's crazy is that both Davis and Sadiq have very, very similar stats. So let's run through these real quick because I thought this was interesting too. Both 6'3", Davis 254 pounds, Sadiq 241, 40-yard dash, split second different. Davis was 4.4, Kenyon was 4.39. The 10-yard split, Davis was 1.52, Sadiq 1.54. Bench press, Davis 33 reps to Sadiq's 26. The vertical jump and broad jump, Sadiq beat him just barely. 42 inches to 43.5 on the vertical and 10'8" to 11'1" on the broad jump. And they both ended up with a score of 93. And the Athletics' Bruce Feldman had him as his number one athletic freak to watch at the combine, and he most certainly delivered. So it was a good weekend for the tight ends because we've got one more to talk about. Vanderbilt's Eli Stowers, who's 6'4", or I think it's Stowers. Again, someone else set a record for the tight end position. He had an 11'3" broad jump. Like we just said, Sadiq's was 11'1". His was 11'3". And he also had the second best vertical by any player since 2003, over 20 years. It was 45.5 inches. And the Athletic notes here that could shrink the gap between Sadiq, who is ranked number 20 on the big board, and Stowers, who is ranked number 48 in Dane Brugler's top 100. And they also have this note, which I think is really interesting. And we've heard a lot about one of the reasons why the Giants loved Theo Johnson is because of his athleticism, which, like, I don't know where they got that because he doesn't look like the most athletic person when I'm watching him play. But anyway, this is what they have here. Raw athleticism is more impactful at the tight end position than any other, as it's apparently a position where everything else can be taught. I thought that was fascinating. So anyway, great weekend for those two guys. The tight ends absolutely stood out. Someone who did not stand out, which I was disappointed by, was Carnell Tate, because I love Carnell Tate. I don't really think that the Giants are going to pick him at 5, but I've been very impressed with what I saw at him. His 40 time was 4.53. Which, again, speed isn't everything. Look at Jalen Hyatt. It's just a piece of it, but obviously, you want a wide receiver who has decent speed. He was ranked 27th among the 34 participating wide receivers. So that's definitely a bummer. But I mean, what are you going to do? It is what it is, right? So let's move along here. I want to switch gears and talk about the defense. There are probably more players that we could talk about. But like I said, I only have a certain amount of time to get this to you guys. And I don't want every video about the combine to be an hour long. So we're going to switch gears, talk about the defense. If there's anyone that I feel like I missed, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. But teams are starting to make moves, and I really want to get into that this week as a real free agency preview, with it officially starting on Monday, because I want to talk about what the other teams are doing, how I think that's going to affect the Giants, if they're going to pick up anyone, and so and so. So we're still going to have top 30 visits that we're going to have information that's coming out of. I just saw something today real quick that the Giants are, hold on, this new update. Oh, library. Okay. The Giants have an in-person meeting with Memphis offensive tackle Travis Burke, which is either before or after his pro day, which is on March 19th. And then Art Stapleton retweeted it and said, Giants legend David Deal is the assistant offensive line coach at Memphis. So Chris Snee, who is one of the Giants' senior offensive line scouts, is probably going to get some good insight. And everyone at the Giants, I'm sure, will get good insight from David Deal. So anyway, we're going to get into more of this again with the top 30 visits and all this stuff coming up. But let's talk about the defensive studs, because there were quite a few of them. Sonny Styles and his brother Lorenzo Styles absolutely stole the show. They are this year's or last year's version of the two Sanders, Deion Sanders kids, Shador and Shiloh. So anyway, both absolute freaks, mind you. Lorenzo Styles Jr. set a record on the 40 time for a safety, a 4.28 for a safety. Unbelievable. He's 23, I believe, and Sonny is 21. But Sonny, of course, as we all know, was an absolute stud. Should be the name on the record from this weekend, that he was just unbelievable and stole the show. I'm sorry, my dog came up here with her toy. So He's 6'5", 244 pounds, ran a 4.46 and had a 43.5-inch vertical jump, which is the second best at linebacker since 1999. Sonny Styles. I mean, I'm sold on Sonny Styles at 5. I'm starting to like him more than Caleb Downs, although I will be happy with both. But an unbelievable weekend for him. Someone else I want to talk about briefly is Ruben Bain. I don't really think he's going to be an option for the Giants, but he was an absolute game wrecker at Miami and just an unbelievable football player. But there was some concern from his combine this weekend because he's got short arms for a defensive end, and I thought this graphic from The Athletic was very interesting. So his arms are under 31 inches, and when they were looking for any pass rushers who recorded a sack in the past 5 years with arms under 31 inches, there were none. So guys who had sacks. These are the stats from 2020 to 2025. Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons, and Brian Burns are leading the NFL with the most amount of sacks and I believe pressures. And their arm length, the shortest arms is Micah Parsons at 31.5. And Ruben Bain is under 31. So I think ultimately, if you really love Ruben Bain and you've seen what he's done on the field, like I don't think his shorter arms are going to be a deal breaker, but I'm sure teams have not drafted guys for less. So that I think is going to be really interesting to watch over the next month or so leading up to the draft. Next up, we have Malachi Lawrence, who is one of those defensive players who came in and stole the show quite a bit from the defense as well. Maybe like an under the radar guy. Like there was a lot of talk about Ruben Bain and Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, like these guys coming into it. But Malachi Lawrence stood out. He had good measurements, excellent vertical and broad jumps, very good athleticism, and is explosive. So kind of reminds me of like the Nick Eamon of last year, like a great defensive player as it was, but came out of the combine like under the radar type of player, came out a little bit as a star. So someone to watch. Next up, we have to talk about Arvell Reese and David Bailey, who of course are likely to be top 5 picks. And if they weren't top 5 picks before this weekend, they most certainly are now. Both ridiculously athletic. Bailey's arms are almost 34 inches and Reese's are 32.5. So no concern about the arm length for those two guys there. So overall, I thought it was a great weekend for a lot of these players. I wish I got to see more of the interviews that I did. I'm going to go back and watch the Jordan Tyson interview because I heard there was some concerns around that and I missed it. But I think because of his injury history, I don't think he's going to be in play for the Giants at 5 anyway, so it might not matter. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk through some of my favorite standouts from the combine. You already know Sonny Styles is on that list. I mean, the Giants haven't drafted a linebacker in the first round since 1984 when they did it with Carl Banks. And everything I'm hearing about this guy, I love. I mean, he's got a fantastic personality. I think I said this already last week, so I apologize if I'm repeating it. But his dad nicknamed him Sonny. His real name is Alex, after the guy in The Godfather, because as a kid, he was hot-headed. And he was like, that's it. He calls him Sonny from now on. So as long as he can maintain as long as he can keep that hot-headedness under control, which it seems like he can. He's very poised, he's well-spoken, he's smart, good football IQ. I saw the interview with him. Like, I think there's just a lot to like about him. And again, could be best player available and also fits a need for the Giants. So I think it's a great two-way there. And I just think that he would really help us, and we need help stopping the run. So I was really impressed with him, liked everything that I saw out of Sonny Styles. I did really like Jeremy Bernard too, because where the Giants are at, we so desperately need linebackers. Not linebackers. I'm sorry guys, I'm getting distracted with my dog. So I'll wrap this up here. But I was really impressed with what I saw. The other two linebackers that I, of course, liked were guys that I loved at the Senior Bowl were Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh, who I just had it up here. He ran a 4.54 40, so pretty decent speed for a linebacker. And then Jacob Rodriguez, who was another guy that I loved, ran a 4.58. So good showings from the linebackers. I think there was a lot of good speed that came out of this weekend. Sonny Styles is my all-time favorite from the crew. I think Jeremy Bernard also had a fantastic weekend, and a guy that I'm excited about. And honestly, I'm a little disappointed in Carnell Tate, but I just kind of think the Giants aren't going to draft him anyway. So I will leave it there. My two standouts, Sonny Styles is really just my number one guy coming out of the combine. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. And for the rest of the week, we're riding hard into free agency because it starts on Monday and there's a lot to discuss. So stay tuned for more.